this morning. We are just over 1 month until Election Day. And with that in mind, today we are unveiling the inaugural Democracy Heroes List, the nonprofit organization I Am a Voter, in partnership with the Rockefeller Foundation, Headcount, and in collaboration with us here on Morning Joe, are spotlighting 25 trailblazers, advocates, organizers, and change makers who are making a difference in their communities every day. From a young man who began his civic engagement work in high school when he began registering people to vote in a Popeyes drive-thru in North Carolina, to a woman in Michigan who is building the political power of the disability community, to Golden State Warriors head coach Stephen Kerr, who is using his voice in civic engagement and activism. Each one of our honorees is breaking barriers and building solutions to ensure all marginalized voters have a seat in our democracy. Take a look at some of the award winners.
There was none. There was nothing in our community that reflected us.
It's heartbreaking to see that people see us as a burden in society, undocumented.
For years, formerly incarcerated people, they have not had a voice.
If disabled people voted at the same rate as non-disabled people, there would be 1.75 million more voters.
We've seen 350 bills passed this year alone that in some way has impeded or created a barrier.
My work is ensuring that disabled people can participate in our democracy and are able to vote.
We make sure that there's always something on the calendar that really brings people in to have a social escape.
I'm just trying to ensure that our children and youth, regardless of immigration status, have a place where they feel seen.
Ultimately, we strengthen frontline communities so they can respond to what's happening in their community.
We help lift up formerly incarcerated people and smaller organizations throughout the country.
That's a huge opportunity to remind them that we are just people, we're just human beings like them.
You know, no state is red or a blue state. They're states full of people.
So here to tell us more is I Am a Voter co-founder Mandana Dayani. Also with us for this discussion is MSNBC host Jen Psaki. You've been going through the list, Jen. Did you figure out who you love the most?
I mean,
Have you made a decision?
I love them all.
Okay.
Can I just say, though, you just mentioned the guy who got his organizing start at a Popeyes drive-thru.
I love it.
And his name's David Ledbetter. And what's so great about that is I talk to some people, you talk to some people who feel overwhelmed by how to get involved.
There you go.
I don't know how to help elect a president. Just get involved in your local community. Get in the Popeyes drive-thru and help people register to vote. So that was what
I think you might have found your choice.
We love them all. They're all amazing.
Mandana, your idea has come to life. Tell us more about it.
Thank you so much for your partnership in making this all possible. We talk so much about the importance of presidential elections, but democracy exists and thrives because people like our democracy heroes are working every single day in communities all across our country to ensure that marginalized voters have access to their rights. And that story about David Ledbetter is genuinely what inspired this whole thing. When I saw that story, I felt like there are people all across our country who are doing amazing work every single day. And, we hear one of the biggest barriers to participation is voter apathy, that voters believe that they keep participating and nothing changes. But what if we shared these stories? What if we showed the profound ripple effect of participation in completely changing communities all across the country? And, with the partnership of the Rockefeller Foundation and Headcount and Morning Joe, we were able to bring this concept to life and honor and spotlight these 25 trailblazers. And so tonight we will honor them at a dinner hosted by Jessica Alba and Ariana DeBose. Tomorrow they will also be honored at Global Citizen. The list is now published on Morning Joe and Know Your Value. All of our honorees will be getting a year-long mentorship program and training. And I am so inspired by their stories, and I am so grateful that we get to share them and hope that this shows more people the impact that they have when they get off the sidelines and meet the moment and lean in when they feel any sort of adversity or injustice.
Most of these honorees are dedicated to serving and uplifting underserved communities. Mandana, take us through some of the highlights.
Yeah, look, again, our democracy only functions when we all participate. And for that to actually work, we need the participation of everybody. And it's now been 30 years since we passed the National Voter Registration Act, and nearly half of our country is going to be facing restrictions on their voting rights this year. We've continued to see restrictive laws against absentee voting, targeting minorities and immigrants. What I think is so beautiful about some of these honorees who are working so hard to ensure that these voting restrictions don't apply to marginalized communities is that they took, sort of the barriers that they experienced and did everything they could to try to make it better for others in a similar situation. And so, like some of the honorees that you highlighted earlier, Kenya Flores, who experienced accessibility challenges as a blind voter, is doing everything she can to ensure that people with disabilities have a voice in the democratic process. Reina Montoya, who grew up as an undocumented immigrant, is working to protect DACA recipients and advancement and advocating for immigrant rights. David Ayala entered the criminal justice system at the age of 12 and spent 21 years in the system and has dedicated his entire life to advocating for the formerly incarcerated and making sure that their rights are restored and that they have a voice in our government.
So as we mentioned, Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr is also honored on the list. He's been using his platform to encourage voter engagement, inspiring both the sports community and the general public to be more active in the democratic process. Here's what Coach Kerr had to say upon accepting his award.
I've learned over the years that heroes come in so many forms, that each of us can be a hero, that by using our voices on our platforms, by participating and leading by example, we can all preserve our great democracy and be heroes in our communities. Our country, our rights require us all to show up over and over, to lead, to vote, to educate, to show up.
It's not the first time he's using his voice. Tell us about his impact, Jen, this election cycle.
Well, watching his convention speech, I was thinking, should this guy run for office?
Right.
Is he going to run for office? Can he run for office?
What's he about to announce?
All of the questions. But what's so powerful about him is people who are basketball fans know who he is because he was the coach of the Olympics team. He's very close with Steph Curry. He coaches the Golden State Warriors. He reaches an entirely different audience. And this is what the power can be of people like Steve Kerr. He's not a typical politician. He's not even a politician yet. We'll see. But I think him speaking at the convention, him getting this award, him putting his voice out there is just another sign of how impactful this election is to people who aren't always using their voice to be involved in politics.
I love what Mandana's done here. Mandana's, by the way, she has like so many ideas and all of them are good. I can't, she's
an ideas
ADHD
machine.
Of ideas.
Yeah, an ideas machine.
So but a lot of these honorees are dedicated, Jen, to getting younger voters out there mobilized, more involved. Talk about their potential impact. It's always hard to actually know if they're going to show up, but feeling something this time around, aren't you?
No question. And who's going to be have a greater impact on them about whether or not they have abortion rights than Gen Z voters?
Right.
There's almost 8 million Gen Z voters in the 7 swing states. That's a lot of voters. And I've done a lot of presidential campaigns, a lot of political campaigns. What is most effective? Yes, there's obviously television advertising. There's candidates doing events,
right.
But it's people grassroots organizing, your neighbors, people you feel you connect to, you relate to. And that's what so many of these democracy heroes represent. They're people who are going out into their own community, talking to people who are their age, who are dealing with the same challenges they're dealing with. And that is always the most effective way to impact people and to get them to get engaged.
I Am a Voter co-founder Mandana Dayani. Thank you so much. We're going to have more coverage of the Democracy Awards dinner, which takes place tonight. We'll have that next week on Morning Joe. And to read about all of the honorees, visit msnbc.com/Morning Joe or knowyourvalue.com.